The sound came like thunder in a quiet sky, one sharp slap echoing across the restaurant. Plates rattled. People stopped talking. Madame Hannah staggered. The tray of jollof rice and chicken she was carrying shattered on the floor, her palm pressed to her cheek, eyes wet and wide. "Get out of my way," Agnes snapped, breath hot with anger. "You slow old woman. If you can't keep up, go somewhere your laziness is welcome." At that exact moment, the glass door swung open. A tall man in a navy suit stepped in, followed by a younger assistant. The man's name was Benjamin Raymond, CEO of Raymond Holdings, one of the biggest companies in Lagos. He froze in the doorway. He had seen the slap. The room went still. For one long second, nobody moved. Then Madame Hannah's lip trembled. Her eyes drifted to the floor as if she wished the ground would just open and hide her. She was 65, slim and small, wearing a clean but worn uniform. Her back was straight out of habit, but her heart was tired. People called her names she never deserved. Witch, bad luck, trouble. They never asked about her story. They never knew about the two daughters she had loved, with her whole life, both gone in a road accident, on the same day, on their way to see her. Benjamin stepped forward. "Madam," he said to Agnes, voice calm but hard, "why did you hit her?" Agnes folded her arms. She wore high heels that clicked like sharp words. "Because I run this place. She is slow. Customers are waiting. If she wants pity, she should not work here." The room stirred. A few people looked down. Some looked away. One man whispered, "That's too much." Another said, "She's old, but she's fast." "I saw her," Agnes snorted. "And who are you to judge? If you're that kind, take her home." Benjamin's jaw tightened. He turned to Madame Hannah. "Ma, are you hurt? Do you want to sit?" Her hand was still on her cheek. She blinked, as if waking from a bad dream. When she looked up at him, something in his face tugged at the oldest part of her memory, the part that still heard a little boy's laugh in a big house with white walls and a blue pool. He bent a little. "Kinder now." "Ma, it's okay." Her gaze sharpened. Lines of worry around her eyes softened. "Your eyes," she whispered, as if talking to herself. "Those eyes. I once watched those eyes learn to swim." A hush fell over the restaurant. Benjamin leaned closer. "What did you say?" She swallowed. "Benjamin?" The assistant's head snapped up. Agnes scoffed. "You know him? That's rich." Benjamin's mouth parted. For a heartbeat, the busy CEO was gone, and a stunned boy stood in his place. "Madame Hannah," he said, voice rough with surprise. "Is it you?" At the sound of her name, years broke open like a flood. She saw a little boy again, thin legs kicking in shallow water, tiny hands waving, a nanny's skirt soaked as she jumped in to pull him out. She saw the boy's mother, Mrs. Sandra, pressing a soft towel to his shoulders. She saw the father, Chief Raymond, laughing with relief. "Hannah, you saved my only child." Her fingers trembled. She nodded. "It's me." Gasps rose across the room. Phones appeared in hands. Even Agnes blinked twice. Benjamin turned slowly to the owner. The warmth left his face. "You hit the woman who raised me," he said quietly. Agnes rolled her eyes, but it was shaky now. "So what? Are you going to buy her a trophy for being slow?" Benjamin faced his assistant. "Chuka." "Yes, sir." "Wait by the door. No one touches her." "Yes, sir." Then Benjamin crouched in front of Madame Hannah so that he was looking up at her. "Please forgive what you just suffered here," he said. "You are not staying one more minute in this place." Her mouth fell open. "I can't just leave." "You can," he said gently. "You will. Come with me." Agnes burst out laughing, but it sounded like a tin can kicked down a road. "Take her if you want. She's been nothing but trouble for me since the day I hired her. People said she's a witch. I still gave her work. But pity has limits." The word burned the air. Witch. The same word people had thrown at Madame Hannah after her daughters died. They never understood grief. They never understood a mother standing alone in a room where two beds were empty forever. Benjamin stood and turned fully to Agnes. "I don't care what people called her," he said. "You are not allowed to hit an elderly woman. Ever." Agnes squared her shoulders. "And if I refuse to let her go?" "She signed to work a full month. She owes me hours." "She doesn't owe you pain," he said. "How much is her salary?" Agnes folded her arms tighter. 100,000 naira a month. And she broke 2 plates last week. A waiter near the counter shook his head. They slipped because the tray is bent. Agnes shot him a glare that could cut glass. Keep quiet. Benjamin took out his wallet and placed a card on the counter. Send your account number to this email, he told her flatly. You'll receive payment for 3 months. Consider it notice. She's leaving now. Agnes opened and closed her mouth. Money always made her brave, but this time it made her careful. Fine, she said at last, voice sharp. Take your old nanny. But don't bring drama back to my business. Benjamin ignored her. He turned to Madame Hannah again, and everything about him softened. Ma, do you have a bag? She nodded slowly. In the back. Please get it, he said. I'll walk you to the car. She took a small breath and stood. Her steps were steady but light, as if her feet were learning hope again. People watched her pass. Some looked sorry. Some looked ashamed. One woman whispered, God bless you, Ma. In the staff room, Madame Hannah took off the uniform top and folded it with care. Underneath, she wore a clean Ankara blouse. She placed the uniform on a chair, then picked up a small bag, faded but neat. For a second, she looked at the mirror and saw not a witch, not a problem, but a woman who had given love and received pain, yet still stood. When she came out, Benjamin was waiting at the hall. He offered his arm. She took it. They walked toward the door while the assistant held it open. Sunshine spilled in like a promise. They were 1 step from the car when Agnes's voice sliced across the parking lot. Wait. Benjamin turned. Madame Hannah flinched. Agnes stood in the doorway with a thin smile that didn't reach her eyes. She held up a piece of paper and shook it like a flag. Before you go, she said, you should know something. Your sweet nanny didn't tell you the full story. Benjamin's face went still. What story? Agnes wagged the paper. This is a police report I filed this morning about a missing envelope from the till. It disappeared during her shift. CCTV has a shadow and a hand. Guess whose hand it looks like? All the air seemed to lean in. The assistant stiffened. A waiter gasped. Madame Hannah's bag slipped a little in her fingers. Benjamin took 1 slow step forward, eyes locked on Agnes. Are you accusing her of theft? Agnes smiled wider. I'm not accusing, I'm proving. And the police station is on its way to collect her. Sirens wailed, faint and far, growing louder. Benjamin glanced at Madame Hannah. Her eyes were full not of fear, but of a pain that looked older than the city itself. He squeezed her hand. Ma, he said softly, tell me the truth. Madame Hannah lifted her chin. Her voice was steady. I did not take anything. The sirens turned into flashing red and blue at the gate. Benjamin inhaled once, long and slow, then faced the oncoming lights. Everyone, he said, voice like steel. Stay exactly where you are. The cars pulled in and doors opened, and the scene froze on the edge of the next breath. The police lights flashed red and blue across the restaurant windows, painting Madame Hannah's trembling hands in streaks of color. The crowd whispered. Some leaned closer, hoping to see a scandal. Others, feeling guilty for ever mocking her, quietly backed away. Benjamin's eyes didn't leave Agnes. You called the police for an old woman, because of a missing envelope. Agnes lifted her chin. I follow the law, Mr. CEO. It's not personal, but her smirk said otherwise. 2 officers stepped in. One was a tall, tired-looking man with kind eyes, the other a younger officer, carrying a notepad. Who is the complainant? The older one asked. Agnes rushed forward. That's me, officer. I run this restaurant. The CCTV camera shows someone's hand near the till during this woman's shift. Money disappeared. I want it investigated properly. The younger officer glanced at Madame Hannah, whose head was bowed. Madam, is this true? Benjamin stepped between them. You'll speak to me first. This woman is under my protection. The officers hesitated. They recognized him, the Benjamin Raymond, son of the late Chief Raymond. One of them straightened immediately. Sir, we're only following procedure. Benjamin nodded once. Then follow it correctly. Where's your evidence? Agnes held out her phone. The video played, a dim image of the counter, a shadow moving across it. The figure was short, slightly bent like Hannah. A hand reached toward a drawer. The screen went black. There, Agnes said triumphantly. That's her. Benjamin took the phone, replayed it, and frowned. You call this proof? The camera's blurred. That could be anyone. It's her, Agnes insisted. I've managed restaurants for 10 years. I can tell. Benjamin handed the phone back without looking at her. You can tell? Or you just want to destroy her? Agnes folded her arms. I want to protect my business. She's been trouble from the start. Enough, Benjamin said, voice low and sharp. If you truly cared about business, you wouldn't humiliate an elderly woman in front of your customers. He turned to the officers again. If there's a real case, then I'll handle it at my office. You'll get every kobo owed to this restaurant. But she's leaving with me right now. The senior officer studied Benjamin's face for a moment, then nodded slowly. We can file the report as pending investigation. But sir, please bring her for questioning tomorrow if needed. I will, Benjamin replied. Madame Hannah's lips trembled. Sir, I didn't take anything. I swear on my children's graves. I know, Benjamin said quietly. I know you didn't. The officers left. Agnes stood frozen, realizing she had lost control of the scene. Her confidence cracked when customers began murmuring, She's wicked. Imagine slapping someone's mother like that. May God forgive her. Benjamin guided Madame Hannah to the car. She kept glancing over her shoulder, still afraid Agnes might call her back. But when the door of the black SUV closed, it was as if the entire world outside no longer mattered. The ride was silent at first. Madame Hannah stared at her hands on her lap, her fingers rough and thin. The city passed by noisy, bright, indifferent. Benjamin finally spoke. You used to hum a song when you made me sleep, he said softly. Do you still remember it? Her eyes widened. You still remember that? I never forgot, he said, smiling faintly. That tune always calmed me when I was scared. She looked out the window, fighting tears. You were such a good boy. Your mother, she loved you so much. Benjamin's face dimmed. She and my father died in a plane crash 4 years ago. I took over everything after that. The company, the properties, the chaos. It's been a storm ever since. She placed a hand on his arm gently. They would be proud of you. For the first time in years, Benjamin felt like a child again. Not a billionaire, not a CEO, just a boy who missed his parents. When the car turned into the long driveway of Raymond Mansion, Madame Hannah gasped. She hadn't seen those gates in decades. The tall palm trees still stood like guards. The marble lions beside the fountain still watched the driveway. 2 security men opened the door as Benjamin stepped out and helped her down. Welcome home, he said. She shook her head, still dazed. Home? No, sir, I can't stay here. You can, Benjamin said firmly. You will. You took care of me when I had nothing to give. Now it's my turn. She stood silently for a moment, the night wind brushing against her grey hair. I never thought I'd see this place again. Inside, the house smelled of old wood polish and soft jasmine. A maid hurried in, startled to see her employer guiding an elderly woman by the hand. Prepare a guest room, Benjamin ordered. The one facing the garden. Yes, sir. While they waited, Benjamin led her to the sitting room. Please sit, he said. Would you like tea? She smiled faintly. You still remember I love tea? He chuckled. You used to drink it with 3 cubes of sugar. You called it sweet comfort. Her eyes softened. Your memory is sharper than I thought. The maid returned and led her upstairs. The guest room was simple but beautiful soft cream curtains, clean sheets, and a view of the garden filled with hibiscus flowers. Madame Hannah touched the bed with careful fingers. I used to clean rooms like this, she whispered. Benjamin stood in the doorway. Now it's yours. That night, she couldn't sleep easily. Her mind replayed the slap, the faces that mocked her, and the warmth of Benjamin's hand as he lifted her from shame to dignity. She whispered a prayer for his parents and another for her daughters, who never lived long enough to see this moment. In the morning, sunlight touched her face. For the first time in years, she woke to quiet peace. A knock came on the door. Ma, breakfast is ready, a young maid said. When she stepped out, Benjamin was already at the table, reading a newspaper. He looked up and smiled. Good morning, Mama. She blinked, startled. Mama? He nodded. That's what I used to call you when I was small. And that's what I'll call you again, if you'll let me. Her eyes filled. I will, my son. But the peace didn't last. As they ate, Benjamin's assistant walked in, face pale. Sir, you need to see this. He handed him a tablet. Benjamin's face darkened. What's this? It's a video, sir. Agnes posted it online. She accused Madame Hannah of stealing from her restaurant. It's spreading fast. Madame Hannah froze, spoon shaking in her hand. "Oh God," she whispered. Benjamin clenched his jaw. Then she just made the biggest mistake of her life. He looked at the assistant, voice turning cold. "Prepare the car. We're going back to that restaurant." And with that, the peace of the mansion shattered, replaced by a storm that was only just beginning. The engine roared down the Lekki Expressway as Benjamin's black SUV sliced through morning traffic. The tension inside the car was heavy. His assistant, Chuka, sat silently in the front seat, clutching his tablet. Madame Hannah sat at the back beside Benjamin, her fingers nervously gripping the edge of her wrapper. "I told you not to worry, Ma," Benjamin said, voice calm but carrying an edge that hinted at storm. "She can post whatever she likes. The truth always wins." Madame Hannah looked down. "But sir, people believe what they see, not what they know. I've lived long enough to learn that lies move faster than truth." Benjamin turned his gaze to the window, jaw tightening. "Then, we'll make the truth louder." When they arrived, the restaurant parking lot was already buzzing. A small crowd had gathered outside, phones raised, whispering about the viral video. Someone even shouted, "That's the old woman." As Benjamin helped Madame Hannah out of the car, Chuka pushed through the crowd, clearing the way. Benjamin walked straight in, ignoring the murmurs. The same restaurant that had once humiliated Hannah now looked smaller under the weight of his presence. Agnes was behind the counter, face lit with false confidence. "Well, look who's back," she said. "I see your rescue mission didn't stop the internet." Benjamin's expression didn't change. "You're trending for the wrong reasons, Agnes, and you seem too proud to notice." Agnes smirked. "I only posted the truth. I have every right to defend my name." Benjamin stepped closer. "Defend your name? By destroying someone else's?" She shrugged. "That woman's story is all over the place. You think people don't remember her? The one whose daughters died? The one everyone said was cursed?" The word cursed hit Madame Hannah like a stone. She gasped, quietly, tears forming. Benjamin's voice hardened. "You're not just cruel, you're reckless. Do you have any proof she stole anything?" Agnes's smirk faltered for a second. "The video proves nothing," Benjamin cut in sharply. "In fact, I had my tech team enhance the footage overnight." He nodded to Chuka, who immediately opened the tablet and placed it on the counter. The enhanced video played in slow motion. The restaurant's security feed was clearer now, every detail visible. The shadowy figure bent near the counter. But as the light flickered, the hand that reached for the envelope had red nail polish. Madame Hannah's hands, visible in the corner of the same frame, were bare and wrinkled. A gasp rippled through the onlookers. Benjamin turned the screen toward Agnes. "You have red nails, don't you?" Agnes's breath caught. She instinctively pulled her hand to her side, but the crimson color betrayed her. This isn't what it looks like," she stammered. Benjamin leaned forward. "Then explain it." Her voice broke. "I was just moving the envelope. I meant to put it in the drawer." "For 2 days?" Benjamin asked coldly. "Because that's how long the money was missing before you filed your fake report." The room fell dead silent. Even the hum of the air conditioner seemed to stop. Benjamin straightened his suit. "You assaulted an elderly woman, lied about her, and tried to destroy her reputation. And now, everyone in this restaurant knows it." Agnes looked around at her staff faces she used to terrify now, staring at her in disbelief. "You're all witnesses," Benjamin said to them. "You saw what she did. You heard her admit it." A waiter spoke up quietly. "Sir, we did. Madame Hannah never took anything. She was always kind to all of us." Benjamin turned to Agnes one last time. "You owe her a public apology." Agnes scoffed through trembling lips. "Never. Then I'll make sure every investor, every partner, and every restaurant group in Lagos sees this footage. You'll never work again." The words hit like thunder. Agnes's pride cracked. Tears welled up in her eyes as she turned toward Madame Hannah. I'm sorry," she whispered, voice breaking. "Please forgive me." Madame Hannah blinked through her tears. "Forgiveness doesn't erase pain," she said softly, "but it frees the heart that gives it. I forgive you." Her voice was gentle, but her dignity filled the room like sunlight. Benjamin placed a hand on her shoulder. "Let's go, Mama." As they turned to leave, the crowd stepped aside respectfully. Someone clapped quietly. Then another joined. And before long, the entire restaurant was filled with the sound of people applauding, not for power, but for grace. Back in the car, Benjamin exhaled deeply. "That's over," he said, finally leaning back. Madame Hannah gave a small smile. "You fought for me like your father once did, for people who couldn't fight for themselves." He turned to her, eyes soft. "He always said kindness is strength. I never understood what he meant until now." They rode in silence for a few minutes before she spoke again, voice barely above a whisper. "There's something I never told anyone," she said, "about the day my daughters died." Benjamin looked at her gently. "You don't have to. I want to," she interrupted. "I need to." She took a deep breath. "They were on their way to visit me. I hadn't seen them in months. That morning, I had a strange feeling, something cold in my chest. I begged them to postpone the trip, but they laughed, said I worried too much." Her eyes glistened. An hour later, their bus collided with a trailer. Everyone said it was my fault, said I cursed them. Even my family believed it. I buried them with my own hands, Benjamin. After that day, I was never the same. Benjamin's hand found hers. "No mother should ever bear that pain, and you didn't curse anyone. You loved them. That's what matters." Tears ran down her face as she nodded. "I tried to keep living, but every door closed. I cleaned houses, washed clothes, begged for food. Then that woman offered me the job. I thought God had finally remembered me." Benjamin squeezed her hand gently. "He didn't forget you, Mama. He just waited for the right time to show the world who you really are." When they reached the mansion, the guards opened the gate. The flowers in the garden glowed gold under the evening Sunday. Hannah stared at them, her heart swelling. Inside, Benjamin's fiancée, Olivia, was waiting in the living room. A graceful woman in her early 30s, she smiled warmly as they entered. "I saw everything online," she said. "Mama Hannah, you are a strong woman. Thank you for raising the man I love." Madame Hannah smiled weakly. "You're kind, my dear." Benjamin placed an arm around Olivia. "We're done with that chapter. Now she's part of this family." For Madame Hannah, every morning at the Raymond mansion was a gift. For Madame Hannah, peace had returned to her life, or so she thought. Gone were the angry shouts, the heavy trays, the humiliation. Now, she woke to birdsong, warm tea, and the laughter of people who finally saw her as human. Benjamin kept his word. He made sure her name was cleared everywhere online, on the news, in people's hearts. And through all of it, Olivia stood by his side. The way she held Madame Hannah's hand at the press conference, the gentle way she spoke to her, it reminded Hannah of the daughters she had lost. 3 days later, the maid came rushing down the stairs, her face pale. "Sir, you need to see this." Benjamin frowned. "What is it?" "It's about the woman who posted the video. She's gone missing." The room went silent again. Benjamin exchanged a look with Olivia. "Missing?" "Yes, sir. They found her car by the bridge. No one's seen her since dawn." Madame Hannah's fingers tightened around her wrapper, unease creeping into her heart. Benjamin's voice dropped low. "Get my driver. We're going there now." And as the sun sank behind the clouds, one truth became clear. The slap that started it all was only the beginning of something much darker. The drive to the bridge was silent, heavy with unease. The sun was setting, painting the Lagos skyline in shades of orange and violet. But inside Benjamin's SUV, the air was thick with tension. Madame Hannah sat in the back, clutching her shawl, while Olivia stared out the window, brows furrowed. When they arrived at the bridge, the flashing blue lights of police cars reflected off the water. People gathered in small clusters, whispering. A half-submerged car, a silver sedan, was being pulled up from the riverbank by a crane. Chuka approached the officer in charge and flashed his ID. "We're here for Miss Agnes," he said. "We heard she's missing." The officer sighed, rubbing the back of his neck. "We found her car abandoned near the bridge about 2 hours ago. Engine still running. No sign of her inside." Benjamin stepped closer. "What about the CCTV cameras along the road?" "We checked. She parked the car around 4:20 a.m. and stepped out alone." The officer said, "After that, nothing." Madame Hannah's hand trembled as she whispered, "Oh Lord, I hope no harm has come to her." Olivia turned to her. "Mama, after what she did to you, you still pray for her?" Hannah nodded slowly. "Child, bitterness only makes pain last longer. I forgave her. But this," her voice faltered, "this feels strange, too sudden." Benjamin frowned, eyes narrowing as he watched the tow truck lift the car fully onto the road. Agnes didn't strike me as someone who'd just vanish. Someone wanted her silenced. The officer looked at him. You think she was threatened? Benjamin crossed his arms. She humiliated an elderly woman in front of the entire city and went viral overnight. The backlash was brutal. Maybe someone took advantage of that chaos, Olivia added. Or maybe she ran away from the shame, but Benjamin shook his head. No, Agnes was proud, not cowardly. She'd fight to the end if she had to. The following morning, the news spread fast. Headlines flooded social media. Restaurant owner missing after viral video controversy. Where is Agnes Adeyemi? Public fury grows. The slap, the CEO, and the vanished woman. Benjamin sat at the breakfast table, scrolling through the stories, while Hannah poured him tea. The internet doesn't rest, he muttered. They've turned this into a circus. Hannah sat down quietly. When storms start, people don't ask who's drowning. They just watch. He looked up at her, his expression softening. You've been through storms yourself. She smiled faintly. Yes, but I learned that every storm passes, no matter how loud. Just then, Chuka entered, holding a brown envelope. Sir, this arrived at the gate this morning. No name, no address. Benjamin took it carefully. The handwriting on the front was shaky, but clear. For Benjamin Raymond, personal. He tore it open. Inside was a single photograph. It showed Agnes standing outside the restaurant the day before she disappeared, talking to a man in a grey hoodie. The man's face wasn't fully visible, but a faint tattoo peeked from under his sleeve, a serpent coiled around a dagger. Benjamin's eyes narrowed. Zoom in, he told Chuka. Chuka took the photo to the table and scanned it on his phone. Sir, this tattoo, it's familiar. The same mark we saw in the old Raymond Foundation files. Your father once reported a man with that design. His name was Kola, Benjamin finished. My father's former driver. He disappeared after stealing company funds 15 years ago. Madam Hannah gasped softly. I remember him. That man always gave me strange looks when I worked in the mansion. He used to whisper things about power and revenge. Oh, Benjamin's voice turned grim. If he's back, he's not here by accident. Later that day, Benjamin visited the police station. The chief detective, a seasoned woman named Inspector Ada, greeted him. Mr. Raymond, I was expecting you. We reviewed the surveillance footage again. You were right. Agnes met someone shortly before she disappeared. Same man you just identified. She slid a photo across the desk. We found his fingerprints on her car door. Benjamin clenched his jaw. So, Kola's behind this? Ada nodded. We believe he might have been blackmailing her. Agnes was involved in more than just restaurant work. She was laundering money through fake staff salaries. My guess is, Kola knew and used it against her. Benjamin exhaled deeply. And now she's missing because she couldn't pay him off. Inspector Ada gave a sympathetic look. We'll find her. But until then, be careful, sir. If Kola resurfaced after all these years, he might be coming for more than money. That night, rain began to fall. The mansion glowed with soft light as thunder rumbled in the distance. Benjamin stood at the large window, staring out at the storm. Olivia joined him, her robe wrapped tightly around her. You've been standing there for an hour, she said quietly. You're worried about her, aren't you? He nodded. Agnes may have been cruel, but no one deserves to vanish like that. Something about this feels personal, like it's connected to my family somehow. Olivia placed her hand on his shoulder. You think this Kola might have a grudge? Benjamin's expression darkened. My father fired him after he stole millions from the company. He swore he'd destroy the Raymond name one day. Maybe this is how he's starting. From upstairs, a soft voice called out, Benjamin? It was Madam Hannah. She stood at the top of the stairs, wrapped in a shawl. Her face was pale. Mama, you should be resting, Benjamin said, hurrying to her. I couldn't sleep, she whispered. I had a dream. I saw Agnes standing by a river, crying. A man stood behind her, and then she disappeared. Olivia looked uneasy. It could be your mind replaying the news, Mama. But Hannah shook her head slowly. No, it felt real, like a warning. Benjamin gently took her arm and guided her back toward her room. Dreams don't always mean danger, Mama. Try to sleep. I'll handle everything. As he left her room, however, a chill ran down his spine. Something about her words clung to him. By midnight, the rain had stopped. The city lights shimmered on wet roads. Benjamin sat alone in his study, flipping through old files. Photos of Kola stared back at him, the same tattoo, the same cold eyes. His phone buzzed suddenly. A message from an unknown number flashed on the screen. "Stop digging, or she won't be the only one missing." Benjamin's blood ran cold. He looked toward the hallway, where the dim light from Hannah's room spilled softly across the floor. He typed back quickly, "Who are you?" 3 dots appeared, then a reply. "Someone you should have left in the past." And just as Benjamin tried to trace the number, it went dead. He leaned back, heart pounding. Outside, thunder cracked again. The storm, it seemed, had only begun. Benjamin didn't sleep that night. The anonymous message haunted him like a whisper that refused to fade. Every creak of the mansion sounded louder. Every flash of lightning outside the window felt closer. He sat in his study, papers scattered across the mahogany desk, old records, phone numbers, photos of Kola, the man who had returned from the past like a ghost demanding justice. At 3 a.m., the silence broke. A faint sound echoed from downstairs, a thud, then footsteps. Benjamin reached instinctively for the drawer where his father's old pistol rested. He moved quietly through the dark corridor, heart pounding, every shadow seeming alive. When he reached the main hallway, he saw it. The back door was slightly open, rain dripping from the handle. A cold wind swept in. "Chuka?" he called softly. No reply. He stepped outside. The garden was soaked, the night thick with mist. Lightning flickered, and in that brief flash, he saw a silhouette near the gate. A tall man, still as a statue. "Kola," Benjamin whispered. The figure turned slowly. The tattoo on his arm glistened under the lightning. A low chuckle came from him. "You've grown, Benjamin Raymond. Just like your father." Benjamin tightened his grip on the gun. "Where is Agnes?" Kola smirked. "Dead men don't ask questions." "Then answer before you become one," Benjamin said, voice low. Kola stepped forward into the light. His eyes were hollow, but wild, the eyes of a man who'd seen too much hatred to remember peace. "You think your money makes you safe? Your father thought the same until he took everything from me. My job, my name, my future. My father fired you because you stole from him." Benjamin shot back. "Because I needed it," Kola roared, his voice cracking through the rain. "I built that empire with my sweat. He took the credit. He ruined me." Benjamin steadied the gun, but Kola raised his hand slowly. "I didn't kill Agnes, if that's what you're thinking," he said, his tone shifting. "But she wanted to blackmail me. She knew about my past, so I made her disappear before she could destroy me." Benjamin's eyes narrowed. "Disappear? What did you do to her?" Kola's lips curled. "Let's just say, the river keeps its secrets." Rage exploded in Benjamin's chest. He took a step closer. "You're going to the police now." Kola laughed, a sharp, broken sound. "You think I fear prison?" "No, Benjamin. I came here to finish what your father started." He lunged suddenly, grabbing the gun. The 2 men struggled in the rain-soaked garden, slipping, wrestling, the weapon twisting between their hands. A shot rang out loud and final. Both froze. The echo faded. Kola stumbled back, eyes wide, clutching his stomach. Blood soaked through his shirt. He collapsed to his knees, then fell face first into the wet grass. Benjamin stood trembling, the gun still warm in his hand. The storm raged above him, the thunder rolling like judgment. From the balcony above, a scream broke the air. Madame Hannah's voice. "Benjamin!" Moments later, she was running through the rain, Olivia right behind her. Hannah's frail frame trembled as she saw the lifeless man on the ground. "What have you done, my son?" she cried. Benjamin dropped the gun, his voice shaking. "He came for me. He was going to kill us." Olivia knelt beside the body, checking for a pulse. Her face was pale. "He's gone," she whispered. Madame Hannah lowered herself slowly, her tears mixing with the rain. "Revenge always leaves 2 graves," she said softly. "One for the guilty, and one for the soul that carries it." Benjamin's breath came shallow. "I didn't want this." She reached out and touched his face gently, her eyes full of sadness. "I know, my child, you fought because you had to. But this night will haunt you if you let it." The police arrived minutes later. Inspector Ada took control of the scene, her calm voice slicing through the chaos. After reviewing the evidence and security footage, it was clear. Kola had broken into the property with a weapon of his own. Benjamin's act was self-defense. Still, the aftermath was heavy. The mansion felt quieter than ever. Days passed like shadows. Agnes's body was eventually found downstream, confirming Kola's confession. Her death was ruled a homicide, and with Kola gone, the case closed legally, at least. But for Benjamin, closure was far from reach. He stopped attending meetings. He barely ate. He spent his days sitting by the window of his father's old study, staring at the garden where it all ended. One evening, Madame Hannah entered quietly with a tray of food. She placed it on the table beside him and sat opposite. "You've barely spoken in days," she said softly. "Keeping pain inside doesn't make it smaller." Benjamin looked at her, eyes weary. "I wanted to give you peace, Mama. Instead, I brought death to our doorstep. And the live to the new and to dode. In the live to the neem sive to the kun staff." She shook her head. "No, you brought justice. But justice and peace are not the same. Peace comes when we forgive ourselves." He sighed. "How do you forgive yourself after killing someone?" Hannah reached for his hand. "You start by remembering why you did it, to protect, not destroy." Her words settled deep in him. For the first time, he looked truly at her, at the wrinkles that told stories, the eyes that had seen too much pain and still carried kindness. "You always know what to say," he murmured. She smiled faintly. "Because I've lived long enough to see pain wear many faces." Weeks turned into months. Life slowly began to move again. Olivia returned to her work, and Benjamin, though quieter, started attending board meetings. The mansion filled with laughter, once more faint but real. It was on a quiet evening in the mansion's garden, when the air smelled of hibiscus and rain, that Benjamin finally dropped to one knee. Olivia gasped, her hand flying to her chest. "Ben, what are you doing?" He smiled up at her, holding out a small velvet box. "Something I should have done long ago. You stood by me through chaos, through shame, through every storm, and you never once asked for anything. So now I'm asking, not as a CEO, not as the man people read about in papers, but as Benjamin, the boy your love made better. Marry me." Tears filled her eyes. She didn't hesitate. "Yes, yes, I will." Madame Hannah watched from the veranda, her face glowing in the lantern light. She clapped softly, whispering a prayer of joy. For the first time in many years, her heart felt whole. The ceremony was simple, yet filled with grace. No flashing cameras, no reporters, just close friends, family, and the woman who had become their foundation. Madame Hannah walked beside Benjamin and Olivia down the aisle, holding his hand like a mother sending off her child. She wore a cream and gold Ankara wrapper, with a lace scarf that shimmered faintly in the afternoon sunday. Olivia's gown was elegant and modest, her veil flowing like light. When Benjamin and Olivia exchanged vows, Hannah's tears fell freely. In that moment, she remembered her two daughters, their laughter, their dreams, and though pain lingered in her chest, it felt softer now, like a scar kissed by healing. At the reception, Benjamin lifted a glass and turned to her. "Mama Hannah," he said, voice thick with emotion. "You were the one who first taught me what love looks like when it costs something. This home, this peace, this marriage, it all began with your kindness." The crowd applauded. Hannah smiled through her tears. "You've become the man your father hoped you'd be." Time began to move gently again. Benjamin poured his energy into expanding his late father's business with a newfound humility. Olivia managed the company's charity arm, building schools and feeding centers in Hannah's name. Madame Hannah became the quiet heart of the mansion teaching staff to cook her old recipes, telling folk tales under the garden tree and always humming that soft lullaby Benjamin remembered from his childhood. Some evenings, Benjamin and Olivia would find her there, gazing at the sunset. "You two should think of starting a family," she would tease, laughter hiding behind her wrinkled smile. Benjamin would chuckle. "We're working on it, Mama." But in truth, they had been trying to have a child without success. One night, after yet another doctor visit ended in disappointment, Olivia sat on Hannah's bedside, tears streaking her face. "I'm sorry, Mama. Maybe God doesn't want us to have children." Hannah reached for her hand, voice calm and sure. "Don't say that, my dear. When God delays, he's usually writing a sweeter story." She knelt slowly beside her bed, despite her aching knees. "Come." she whispered. Let's pray together. Benjamin joined them. In that bedroom, 3 generations past, present, and the one yet to come joined hands. Hannah's voice was steady as she prayed, God, you took my daughters before their time, but you gave me this son and his wife. Bless them with a child who will carry love where hate once lived. Let laughter return to this house. Her words filled the air like music. 3 months later, Olivia stood in front of the mirror, trembling, holding a small white stick with shaking hands. When she showed it to Benjamin, they both wept. The very next day, Hannah danced barefoot in the garden. The staff cheered, the maids clapped, and Benjamin laughed for the first time in months. 9 months later, under the soft glow of hospital lights, Olivia gave birth to a baby boy. Benjamin held him in trembling hands, his heart overflowing. He turned to Hannah, who stood at the bedside in her simple blue wrapper, tears rolling freely down her face. His name, Benjamin said, voice breaking, will be Raymond after my father, and for the light he brought into our lives. Explain to the reins of there. It's side being Soch. Hannah touched the baby's cheek. He has your eyes, she whispered, and your kindness. Olivia smiled through tears. Mama, will you bless him? Hannah placed her hands gently on the child's forehead. May you grow strong and wise. May you love truth, walk in peace, and never let the world harden your heart. The room felt holy, wrapped in warmth and quiet joy. Benjamin kissed Hannah's hand. Thank you, Mama, for everything. She shook her head, smiling. No, my son. Thank God. He never forgets the ones the world throws away. That night, as the newborn slept and thunder murmured softly outside, Hannah stood by the hospital window, watching the rain. Her reflection glowed faintly in the glass. For the first time in years, she didn't feel old or forgotten. She felt complete. She whispered to herself, My daughters, I told you God would remember me. And when dawn came, light spilled across the city like a promise kept. The years rolled by quickly. 10 years had passed since the birth of Raymond. Madame Hannah remained a mother figure in Benjamin's home. One evening, Olivia walked into the garden and found Benjamin and Madame Hannah seated beneath the almond tree. The sun was setting, casting a warm glow across their faces. Raymond, their 10-year-old son, ran up to them, holding a small wooden airplane. Grandma Hannah, look, I made it fly. She laughed softly, her voice thin but bright. Oh, my little pilot, you'll fly higher than all of us one day. Benjamin smiled. He has your patience. She patted his hand. And your courage. As night fell, she leaned back on the bench, closing her eyes. It's peaceful tonight, she whispered, almost like heaven's watching. Benjamin looked at her closely. Mama, are you all right? She smiled. Yes, my son, I'm just tired, but happy. Her voice faded gently. Her hand slipped from his. Benjamin froze. Mama? Olivia gasped. Oh my God, Benjamin. He touched her neck, no pulse. Her face was calm, peaceful, as if she had simply drifted into a better world. Benjamin's eyes filled with tears. She waited, he whispered. She said she wanted to see Raymond grow, and she did. They buried Madame Hannah under the almond tree, where she had spent her happiest evenings. At her funeral, Benjamin said through trembling lips, She taught me that kindness is stronger than power, and forgiveness heals what revenge destroys. As the final handful of soil fell on her grave, a breeze swept through the garden, warm and soft, carrying the scent of jasmine. Benjamin looked up at the sky, whispering, Rest now, Mama. You finally have peace. And as the sun dipped below the horizon, its golden light fell on the mansion, the same place where pain had once lived, now glowing with grace, love, and the quiet triumph of forgiveness. What is your view about this story? Where are you watching from? If you enjoyed this story, comment, share, and subscribe to our channel for more interesting stories.